see the back.
Yeah, we're all running.
All right, game on.
All right, cool. Shall I start?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
You may.
So my name is Jeff Staple. I'm the founder of a brand out of New York City called Staple. I also have a creative agency called Reed Art Department. I also have a Web3 arm called Stapleverse. I guess at the core of it, I'm a designer, but over the past 8 years of doing this, I've had to learn how to be a business person at the same time. So I like living in the duality of being an artist and a businessman. I was born in New Jersey, live mostly between New York and Los Angeles, and a lot on a plane as well. So that's me. I'll go this way.
Okay. I'm Judit Pach, and I'm the ambassador of Hungary to Singapore. I actually didn't want to become a diplomat. Everyone believes this is such a career path. For me, this was actually not what I wanted to become. I am a trained economist, and I wanted to go into the private sphere and into business. But then somehow I landed to become the spokesperson of our president. Then afterwards, I wanted to go back to the private sphere. Then I was recruited for the government to be the chief of cabinet to one of our ministers. And then when I again got the chance that, okay, now I'm switching, they called me from the prime minister's office to head the international communication of the whole Hungarian government. So I did that. And then our foreign minister approached me and he said that he doesn't have an ambassador. So I became the ambassador of Hungary to Jakarta and to Indonesia. I stayed there 6.5 years. My main focus was business, and I sixfolded the trade numbers between Hungary and Indonesia during that time. And we did the biggest technology transfer in Hungarian history ever. And I moved as an ambassador to Singapore in 2021.
It sounds like a mafia that you can't escape.
Every time you try to leave,
going
they pull
upwards.
you back.
You're like, hey, do this other thing.
Right. Epic.
All right, let's keep going.
So
yeah.
I'm Gustin. You can call me Gus. I've done a breadth of things in my lifetime, but it's always been with people. So I've been in hospitality for 25 years. So I started in Burger King. I love telling people that. I think I was 15. Don't get it on camera. And I just love dealing with people. I work in clubs, in fine dining, like all the spheres of service. And now I work at Mandala Club. It's a private members club with 2,700 members. Super diverse. I mean, we're talking about 20 to 70. And my job is engagement. It's to make sure that no one gets left behind in the ecosystem. And that's crazy. And there are only 2 of us. So we're building systems, and it's beautiful because it's still primarily serving community and people, but now thinking about it at scale, an individual scale. Because you can't superimpose service or your journey and your journey, what you like, what you're trying to get out of the community. So every day I'm battling this, how do we do this, and how do we put these systems into place so we can repeat them over and over and over again. So intersection of hospitality and tech is where my brain is all the time.
Hi, my name is Tamish. So I am a brand guy. I'm also a co-founder of a streetwear brand called Asia's Galaxy, based out of Jakarta. We are also a creative agency, and now I'm also an owner of a cocktail bar. Got into F&B. It didn't just happen like that. As a creative agency, we found ourselves surrounded by a lot of chefs and a lot of bartenders. And then that kind of shaped like the kind of space we wanted to be in, because we really love the concept of hospitality. And it's kind of like a space where you really need to love what you do and give your best to have the best return, right? And we take a lot of inspirations from chefs and bartenders, and that's kind of like how our whole streetwear brand operates.
I'm Adam Penney. I'm a chef. I've been cooking for about 30 years. I've always loved food. I think since when I was about 5, cooking at home and just making stuff and just playing around. I've worked in various different restaurants, from fine dining to gastro pubs to clubs, lots of different cuisines. Been here for about 10 years now. Jakarta first. I came over to open up hamburger chain called 3 Buns. And then I just opened Carnaby 2 months ago. So welcome to Carnaby.
Hi everyone, I'm Damini. I grew up between India, Beijing, New Delhi, Beijing, and Perth in Western Australia. And I've been in Singapore for 13 years. And I am technically a dentist. I've been practicing here for 13 years. but I am also a professional speaker and executive coach. And that's what I focus on more now. So I focus on courageous communication and teach people how to speak human and really connect with themselves so they can connect better with everyone around them.
Hi everybody, so I'm Nadiya. From the accent, I suppose I spent most of my life in the UK, from a small town called Watford. I spent my younger years in the Middle East. I found myself here in Asia about 11 years ago, 10, 11 years ago. Jakarta initially and now Singapore. So my background is actually in agency world. You can call me a media bitch. I was doing lunches, I was taking out clients.
I can't wait to break bread with all of you guys, and thank you for providing the bread.
Yes.
The idea that, you know, being of service and hospitality to your community, your customer base, your demo, whatever that is, I actually think that's something that is probably pervasive in almost any profession, like whether it's politics or dentistry or food and beverage, right? It's always there. So that's really what I wanted to hone in on. And I think each of us brings that level of expertise and superpower in terms of like how to really tap in and speak authentically to the people that you're trying to communicate with and speak with, you know? But I think the challenge that often happens is, you know, one thing that I think we all do is that we all do it at scale, right? I'll give you an example, like if you're a butler, you can provide service to one human being really well. Now do it to 10, or 1,000, or 50,000, or 5 million, right? Like, so that's really the challenge here that I'm trying to unlock for people is like, how do you maintain that level of service and consistency, but with scale and like volume?
All right, good service, loud and memorable, or discreet and thoughtful?
For me, it's interesting because I think you can be authentic and still be both, right? And I think it really, with the work that I do, I actually see the full spectrum because as a keynote speaker, when I'm on a stage and I'm speaking to a really large audience, I have to be loud and memorable,
And sure, yeah.
right? And my sort of USP, MO, whatever you want to call it, is that I tap into humor.
Yeah.
So that's how I connect with people, and that works. But if I was that same person in a one-on-one coaching setting where I'm like tapping into somebody's like deep emotional needs and like working through their, you know, deepest, darkest sort of thoughts, it doesn't work. So I do have to be really discreet. And then you have the dentistry side where I'm discreet and thoughtful, and everything else is loud. So, you know, there's just like inside your head. So, yeah. But I think, you know, I think on a one-on-one basis, people really do appreciate that slightly more discreet, thoughtful. But when I'm in a big group, then I think loud works.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Definitely.
And I think it very much depends also on your target group and on your clientele, because there are a lot of different fields where you want to be quiet and in the background because your service is to empower and to enhance them, and then you want to be discreet. So for us, when I was invited to this, I was like, oh my God, who do I service? And because it's such a large territory which I'm covering, and of course when it comes to representing Hungary, which is a small Central European country, we need to be loud and proud because it's like I want to get to know my country with everyone else. But when we are, for example, we work a lot in business diplomacy, when we are supporting businesses to get their deals done and to introduce them to others, then we want to step into the background and we want to be as invisible as we can because we want them to shine and we just open the doors for them. So I think it very much depends on what you are actually doing.
Like the idea of like a 50-50 depending on the scenario is very essential, right? Like I could really agree on like, it's like, okay, coming from a place of like running different departments, right? As a streetwear brand, I gotta be loud. I gotta talk about like the brand. I gotta talk about the ethos, the foundation, how we started. Also, we're from Jakarta. The rest of the world don't know where Jakarta is, you know? And I gotta put 4 or 5 times the work. I mean, coming from New York, when you say I'm from New York, that's like, yo,
Yeah.
When you say Jakarta, you're like, where's that? You know what I mean? Like some people think Bali is Australia, you know,
God, I moved to
and
Jakarta,
it's
people are like,
kind of
"Is it in
wild,
Bali?"
right? I got to be a little bit loud and like a little bit of like, yo, guys, like a lot of creativity is coming out of Jakarta too, you know, and that's why like I know we did a talk about this one time, and you talk about like wear the city on your back, you know, and we kind of have to do that, you know, because if we don't, then who else is going to do it, right?
There is so much, and we take for granted, that sits in a brand or a culture that resonates through everything from strategy to the people to the product you're providing, and it's unspoken.
Yeah.
And this is where, you know, you don't need to be loud about it, because that's just your signature that people get to know. But it takes time to build up.
It takes
right?
a lot of time to build
Do you
up.
shout about that first, or then you just kind of just, as you say, just throw it
Lately,
in? Yeah.
no. Lately, I've been very like, I guess like I'm just getting matured and growing older.
Yeah.
So now I'm just more like
And a father now.
Yeah, now I'm a dad. So like things are more like, do I really need this headache or not?
Right.
You know.
Well, the shouting that you mentioned and the putting the city on your back
Yeah.
is work too. There's the actual work.
Yes.
Then there's like, okay, I finished my job. Now I got to put my job on my back and
Yeah.
like tell the world like that's another
That
whole
is true.
profession.
That is true. You know. But look, again, like when you're running a brand, like you have to be the brand, right? So there's no, I envy certain brands that can like just do the thing and they get the fame and all that, and they have to be discreet about, oh, that's the owner. Like I respect those kind of brands, you know? And there are some brands where you have no idea who the owner is, right? And the brand is powerful like that. But there's some brands where the owner has to be about the brand, you know? And
Any nightmare client stories that you can? Well, there's a few of us at the table where like we have clients, and that's a little bit of a different dichotomy because it's almost like you're like a taxi driver. Like I'm paying for your time, clock is on, serve me. When services are rendered, here's the money, right? So it's very, very transactional. Yeah.
So yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Would love to hear some war stories.
So, no names, no nothing. Let's look at it as a hypothetical thing, right? And I think the issue of what we do, and I don't know if you can relate, I'm sure you can relate, is like I get a lot of certain type of clients that when they sign up with like our agency, they're expecting everything we do for Ageless Galaxy, they should also get that.
We face the same thing.
Right.
People want the staple collaboration and the energy around that.
Exactly,
Yeah.
right? And there's some brands that like we work with as an agency, but I wouldn't work with as a brand, you know, it depends where does this brand get our brand to? Like, are we on the same frequency? Are we talking to the same audience? Are we aligned? Can we get dinner together at least 3 times and talk about life shit, you know? Like,
So how do you manage that expectation
get
and
through the
draw
dinner
those
3
lines?
times. If you can't get through the dinner,
No,
just
that's a good barometer. But like I say, you doing a project or a collaboration with Staple right now does us no good, and it also does you no good at this juncture. Let us help you get to the point where it's impactful to actually do a collaboration with Staple or a brand like Staple, right? Like you got to get to that level. You can't just buy your way into the culture. And 9 times out of 10, they believe that, and it's true.
In Singapore, we've got so many different restaurants and so many different places for people to eat. You need to sort of shout out about it and be strong and just know what we're selling and be proud of what we're selling and what we're trying to give to people. And then, like, I'll personally come out and chat to guests, but also because it's my restaurant, I want to make sure everybody's happy and if they've got any issues or anything. And just give them that little extra bit of service and see what we can do to just make sure. I want people to come in here, have a meal, whether they're celebrating or they're just by themselves, but leave happy and content and want to come back.
When the chef comes out and shakes people's hands and said, "How was your meal?" Every chef hates that. Right?
Yeah, I don't shake the hand. I just come out and go, "How was everything okay? Everything good?" And then
But you even hate doing that. I'm sure you do.
I don't mind doing
like,
it now because then I can upsell the desserts and stuff like that, and I can just push them to get. Because I always remind them just have a little room for put.
I always feel like, just go back. I know you hate doing this. Just go back in the kitchen.
I'll do it on like when I've got a little bit of down, and also because it's open in there, so they can all see
Right,
me.
you're
So
right
I'll do
there,
a little
yeah.
bit of downtime. I'll come out and just chat to people when I can. Sometimes I'm flat out, so I don't get a chance. But when I do, I'll come out and speak to people.
But 90% of customers love that.
I was just
of
going to say,
course.
as a
Love
customer,
that. Yeah.
I love it when the chef comes out.
The best flex, I know the chef. That's the best flex ever.
yeah.
Or they send out a plate, like,
Or
oh,
they
that
send
plate's
out-
for you.
Yeah.
That's off menu.
Yeah, off menu. Off menu.
In the beginning of my career, it used to be about me. I would be the most charming, I would know the menu, I would be the most, and over time I realized it's about them. It's about the customer. So you watch them and you match the energy that they're bringing. After years
You've
of
got to
just,
read the room a bit,
you
don't
read
you?
each individual person and couple or whatever group, and you just wait. It's not about you. So if you're coming in with the food, you have this big explanation, you're so excited, but they're laughing, they're having a good time. You wait, you drop the food, and you just move away. Right? It's services. You look at the table and you assess empathy. It's reading. And when someone's having a terrible time, you just drop small. It's not about, you don't go there and like, oh, hey, how's it going, everyone? No, you just drop little things to know that, hey, I see you.
Yeah, you got to match the energy.
I see you.
You got to match the energy.
In the early days of New York, I used to DJ, and I used to think the same way. Where like, as a DJ, you start out like, I want to play my music, I want to show what I love and what Then you start to realize that like, you have to read the room, and a club room is like. I always thought of it like surfing. You have to read the wave, and there is a literal wave. And because I have a bunch of chef friends as well back home, and they tell me that running a restaurant is like a mini Broadway play every single day.
Yeah.
It's like a performance that you have to do.
Yeah.
Right? That is so stressful
Saying
sounding.
it's you're kind of as good as your last shift, and every day you got to every day you got to perform. And
But then
gotta
you get
be-
this new audience, and you don't know what they're going to be like that day, right?
And then also, like the team yesterday, some of the team, they did a big job on Saturday night. They had no sleep, came in early morning, did Sunday lunch, which doesn't say about they're literally working about 18 hours straight through, and just hot cooking, fire, burning, and banging out.
Physical labor.
What are your ride or die service principles?
Oh, nice one.
Giving a fuck.
Giving a fuck.
Giving a fuck.
Anything else? That's a good one. That's like a unanimous one. Ride or die. I mean, do we want to get specific in each of our industries?
I can go first.
Yeah.
I think actually it comes back to what Gus said before, that it's actually not about you. So I think for me, whether it's dentistry or it's coaching or it's keynote speaking, across the board, it's really that understanding that it's not about me, it's about what value I'm bringing, right? And so for me, my ride or die service principle really is actually coming back to, I was just explaining to Nadiya, like I have a framework which is speak human. And what that really means is hearing people to deeply understand their context, right? And then sort of managing expectations based on that. And then being authentic in how you meet their needs, right? And that's basically how I package it. And that's every single time when you can really get inquisitive about what the other person is saying, where they're coming from and what their context is and what their needs are. That's how you show up and give real good service.
How do you know if your community experiences what you intended?
Great question.
Well, in restaurants, you know right away.
Pretty much.
Yelp review.
Apart from you get a few sneaky ones. You get people who go, yes, it was lovely, and then as soon as they leave, then they go, I didn't like that, I wasn't happy with that. But it is, well, for here particularly, we're very lucky. We've got a lot of return. We've got guests that come back 3 or 4 times a week. And they seem to obviously get it. They like what we're doing, and we've got the right price point. So we're obviously still new, but going ahead, it's hopefully it's a good sign. And then I'd try and touch base with people. I'll reply to anybody that leaves a review. I'll reply personally to them.
Good or bad, or just the bad?
Well, I'll get to the bad first,
Yeah.
and then the good ones I'll just say thanks for the love or stuff like that. But the bad ones I'll go, okay, shit, what do we do? Please let me know what it was.
I have a question. when there's a bad review, right? Do you feel like you have to explain yourself, or do you go straight to what can we do to make it up to them?
Depends on what the situation was.
Yeah.
If we know it was something that we messed up on our side, which stuff will happen, then we'll sort it out straight away. If it's just somebody who's being a little bit, they won't. We can't please people. Can't please everybody all the time. So there is going to be that percentage. But if it's something that's really bad, then I'll get to the point straight away. And then if it's something that was just a little bit trivial, then I'll quite happily ask people to come back in, give us another go. I'll go and I'll ideally look after them myself. And just make sure they have a really happy experience.
I don't know the secret to success, but I do know the secret to failure, and it's trying to please everyone.
Yeah.
You can't do it to. You can't win them all.
There's it's quite fun. I've been in the industry for a long time, and you can tell, and it's worldwide. It's not just here. There's certain days that you get really tricky people. Like Sunday night, for some reason, it's people who want really specific things. They're not just Sunday evening for some reason. I don't know why.
It's all the parents who've been dealing with
Yeah, it's like Sunday evening is just, it's always, and I was thinking back, I was going, when I was a copy, when I was in London and I first started, I remember Sunday nights, the tickets are always, it's always the stuff of something slightly to the left or that off or that, or change that for that. They won't just, Tuesday night is normally the people that will just come and go, right, I want a good meal, I'll just come in and I'll eat and happy. And
So it's interesting because the difference, the total polar opposite in fashion, right, and sneaker design is that I'm designing something that is literally, I'm creating a thing that the customer won't see. Right? I'm creating it today. The customer will experience it in fall of 2025. Okay, so I've done it now. It's going to go into the cycle of production, sampling, distribution, sales, wholesale, retail, D2C. Customer gets it. In November of 2025. I designed it this month. They're gonna be like, this shirt graphic is like sucky bow. What do I'm like, I don't know what to do, bro. I'm working on 2027. You know? I'm reading the email, I'm like, c'est la vie?
Do you still randomly reply to people?
Yes,
Just
I
on
do,
your social?
yeah.
Just random, like a random,
Yeah.
and then you just go in for it?
Oh,
And how do they
negatively?
react? Either. It can be anything.
I don't address the haters anymore. I used to go into it. I'm a very, very petty motherfucker. And when I go down that like dark hole, I'll go I'll go deep in their feed. I'll like look for their mom's feed, and I'll be like, well, if your mom didn't do X, Y, like, you know, like they'll be like, how did he know? So like, no, I just take the high road.
What about the positive?
Positive-
Do you just go in there and
There's
say
too many
something random?
No, I just do the thank
Hearts.
God. Hearts.
Yeah, just
Thank God Instagram ads like they'll just heart.
Yeah, like.
They gotta add.
Do
the
you?
heart
Do you
ball.
go in there and chat to people? And...
I do from time to time, you know. But to relate to this production thing and talk about like power of community, right? I feel like as a streetwear brand, we're blessed that the community supports, right? Because without the community, we're basically non-existent, you know? The community is what drives like whatever your brand is about to be, right? So every comment does matter, you know? And there's always gonna be trolls. Trolls are gonna be trolls. And sometimes how you handle the troll is also kind of like cool if you can win, right? And, but there was a situation one time, we did a collaboration with Anwar Carrots. And this was one of those collabs. Anwar is a streetwear brand based out of LA. And this was the first time we were doing a collab with a brand from out of LA. And I was putting Jakarta on the map, you know? I was like, I'm doing this, you know? Everything was so smooth till the day of the launch, right? And something wasn't sitting right with me. I was just like, why is everything so perfect? Production came in on time. The lookbook was awesome. Everything was so perfect. But it wasn't sitting right with me, right? We launched the collection, orders came in, and I'm shipping out stuff to LA, to Singapore, to Amsterdam. Like, we're getting international orders, which is quite a blessing for Jakarta, right? And then 2 days later, I was in my balcony, right? I was on a call for a completely different scenario, and I see the Carrots shirt that we designed falling apart. The print was literally falling apart after a wash. And I was like on the call, and I was just like, what the fuck? I was like, I'll call you back. I checked with production. I checked with the team. I'm like, guys, do we have some shirts? And it's like, oh, we shipped them out already. I'm like, fuck. So we had a few shirts left, and we immediately put them for wash. And then apparently we had a production fault. So the production didn't get it into the final curing, where you heat the shirts so the graphic like sinks in. And we shipped it all these shirts, and now everybody internationally is about to get a defected shirt. So the first person I called was Anwar, and I said, hey bro, so just letting you know, before I tell you what happened, I have it under control. We fucked up on one of these products, and a lot of our people, and it's not just our name, it's his name now, because we did the production. And then he was like, oh damn, I don't know if you met Anwar, but he's such a chill guy. He's like, oh, so what are we gonna do about it? Okay, cool, you figured it out, right? Okay, cool. I'm like, how are you so calm? I'm freaking out, you know what I mean? And I was like, okay, whatever, but I had it. So I discussed with the team, we're gonna send out an email to everybody. Literally the subject was, sorry, we fucked up. And I was ready to be that Indonesian brand, like their shit sucks. I was ready, I was so ready. But hey, the power of the community, right? Like, I think they saw the process, they saw the love, they saw everything. And at the end of the day, the response we got was like, oh, some people's shirts work fine. Some people got an extra shirt. And like, the response I got was beautiful. Like, they were like, oh, that was so cool. Like, thank you for, and I responded, I said, hey, thank you, like, so sorry, like, we're just trying to be human, and all this stuff. And we pulled ourselves out of a situation, and I think that just like saved. That was a cool story at the end of the day. You know what I mean? And yeah, but the community thing is a big thing, and sometimes you just have to like respond.
The best is when like I have the hater remarks, but then the community actually
fights for you.
Yeah.
I think you guys are
Love
illustrating the difference between community and customer. That's why that word community is so important.
Yes.
Because a customer would just be like, it's not about the transaction.
Yeah. People over product any day,
I think if you're honest with people as well, and you tell, if there's a situation and you tell them kind of what's going on, they're normally cooler with it. Especially the restaurants. If we drop something or something like that, and they got to wait, you tell them. And then they're cooler. If we try to bullshit them, then they're going to get pissed off.
You know what I find in the airline industry? They like to keep shit from you, right? Like when you sit on the plane for like 45 minutes, they never like, just tell us what's going on. Yeah. 10 more minutes. 3 hours later, yeah.
When do you serve a niche and when do you serve all?
Because especially in our industry, we are a niche, by default. So to me, niche is all. So when I talk to the niche, I'm talking to all, right? And I would like to think that as I scale upwards, if Staple were ever to become the Gap, that I would try to hold on to that mentality. But to your point, I realize that not every kid who's a fan of me and my brand can afford $60 for a t-shirt or something like that, right? So the beauty of the one sort of silver lining of social media and YouTube and stuff like that is that you can give access points and gems or keys to kids for free, right? They can't buy the shirt, but they can attend an AMA or go to a Discord session or something like that. So me and my team are always thinking about the full top to bottom sort of funnel of like, how does a person come in and first experience it? It might be literally a tweet. Then they come in, then they watch an IG live. Then they buy a keychain. Then they get it, and before you know it, they're buying the cashmere sweater. So it's like bringing them all the way down. But some just, they can't do it, or it's not even financial. Some is like, I'm married with 3 kids and I'm a lawyer. I love everything about you, but I can't wear your stuff, So
it doesn't suit my brand.
And I don't want them wearing my stuff either.
You're not representing.
I do that with like a lot of like bartenders. Like I know in Indonesia the wages are quite low, right? And I know that like there are multiple times where I'm at like a restaurant and a waiter would come up to me and be like, yo, like, I'm collecting money to get this new collection that you're getting. And that just breaks me into pieces. You know what I mean? Because it's just like, I know the struggle of like low wages in Indonesia and you're actually saving up to buy a shirt. Fuck that. I'm gonna give it to you. You know what I mean? Just tell me your address. And like, and that's kind of like, sometimes, and it goes a long way,
They'll never forget that.
and they'll never forget that. Because at the end of the day, we're not selling a shirt. We're selling a mentality. You know what I mean? And the fact that you've chose to I want to rep that shirt, it's not because of, oh, I saw it on Hypebeast or whatever. It's because you've actually followed the progress, And when you start believing in the progress, you know how hard it is to be, right? And I think that's kind of where sometimes I have this policy where are you in a service business? What do you do? Don't worry, I got you. I'll just send you some shit, And then it changes their world in a whole different perspective,
Now everyone who watches is going to leave a comment on your Instagram. I'm in the service.
Everyone's going to get free shirts from Ageless.
I'm gonna say I was in service and he sent me a free shirt.
Oh,
So that's true. It's true. And I was just telling him I still have that shirt.
Speaking for the people.
I still have the shirt.
love that.
2017.
Yeah.
It's one of my favorite shirts still.
I did the craziest pop-up with this guy.
Yeah.
Yeah, the whole group.
Thank you.
So first part, what's hardest about designing for a service? What's absolutely worth doing it?
Okay.
What's absolutely worth?
What's the hard thing
Yeah.
to do? Okay.
Right. I think I can go back to the niche and serve all. Right? I realize now that it's because just where I'm at now, it's a club full of completely diverse people, all kinds of industries, all kinds of age groups, and I realize it is very hard to serve all. So what I'm realizing is if you don't set kind of the mandate or the rules of engagement of your community, what does your community stand for? It's very hard then to serve or serve everyone and make everyone happy. I know that it's kind of it's difficult, and we know we're trying not to make everybody happy, but when they pay a membership for your club, they're the individual. So you have to you're serving them, and it's their journey. And so really, this is something I think about all the time, because if you are here to meet somebody, or you're just here to have a drink sometimes, or you have a different expectation from our ecosystem, how do I make sure that you're meeting your goals? And these are so many touch points. So recently I've been thinking of this, the way we interact with apps. If you read books about how, you build these habits, they're touch points. How does IG work? You like a thing, they send you a thing, you interact with it, 6 to 8 touch points. So I've been thinking recently, how do we apply touch points to community? So whether it's an AMA or Twitter space, but how do you do that in it's physical incantation.
Yeah, that's a good study.
So I'm now when people join Mandala, I put them through this kind of a 3-month, I'm reaching out for personal things. I'm reaching out, hey, I remember you like this. Let me invite you to this. Or a 30-day survey.
So you curate the service.
You're curating the service. But what's interesting is they may not necessarily know what they want when they come through. And halfway through the journey, you could change that. So how are you nimble to understand okay, Tamish has now met a few people, but now he wants to learn more about AI. So how does the club now apply that to you? And so just thinking of this matrix of how do you, and it should be seamless to a member. They should come, they should experience, they should receive something from me, they should learn something, they should meet someone, they should enjoy the food. But it's so orchestrated.
But it also can't fall off.
No,
You can't get the 3-month barrage and then nothing.
Exactly.
That's the tough part,
And then you want them to be at your club or eat at your restaurant or wear your brand or rep your brand or forever. And that's evolving, so you have to evolve too. So you're evolving the way, the touch points, you're evolving your knowledge, because all of a sudden now everyone's into wellness. All our members are like, hey, I want to learn more about mindfulness. We went from teach me about AI a year ago, I want to do workshops about AI, to now, hey, can we do breath work?
Nice.
And if you're breath work.
Oh, wow.
And now if you're not out there going, what's learning about what these trends are in the world, what these global movements are, you're gonna fall behind. So this niche and all, when they're paying their subscriptions every month as a member here, you're always having to think about it.
I could tell you're actively trying to figure out how to really scale and almost gamify this so that it just keeps going, right?
Absolutely. And it shouldn't be me. If I leave, can somebody with minimum service background, like physical service background, pick it up and absolutely run with it?
Do you think it'll ever happen?
I think so. I think with large language models, we can do it.
Absolutely.
So if I tag Jeff likes burgundy wine. if there's a wine event, it should ping you the week after and say, hey, missed you at that event.
Yeah.
So some should come from me, but some touch points have to be, obviously community, touch points with one another.
And some have to be curated.
And some have to be automated because I can't. What happens when you get to 10,000? What
Yeah.
happens when your community gets to 50,000?
Yeah.
So very, very good touch point, because running the store side of things, we buy stuff from other brands, or even when we design stuff for like clothing, we're designing by the people that we're surrounded by. Oh, this guy would totally buy that. This guy would totally buy that.
Right.
And right now we can still handle it based on like our network of what we have. But when you start to grow up to like massive scale, that's going to be a whole nother level of curation and like-minded people coming together, right? But but curating and trying to understand people's needs and like ordering specifically for them, 90% of the chance you know you're going to move the product. You know what I mean? Because you already know that Mr. Jack loves to wear staple, you know?
And that's the charm.
And
That's the charm.
Yeah,
That they
no,
know
it's
you're
crazy.
doing it for the community.
it's why. And when you tell them I ordered it just for you, I knew you would like it, they'll be like, damn, man, thanks
20
a lot.
positive touch points. 20 positive touch points.
What is the best individual service moment that you guys have had in your lives? The one moment where you were just like jaw drop, floored, like, damn.
On 2 occasions, while I was working in London, I was working in a little gastropub in Hampstead, and it was a daily changing menu. And I had 2 occasions. I had a girl in her early 20s bring her grandmother up to the kitchen. And we had a gazpacho on the menu. And she came up and just went, are you the chef? And I went, yeah. And she said, you just made my grandmother cry. And I was like, shit, I'm so sorry. What the fuck did I do? And she said, no, she grew up in Spain. She grew up in Seville. And she just had the gazpacho. And it just brought her back to her childhood.
Oh my God.
And I was like, man, that is what it's about. Thank you so much.
You live for that, right?
And then I had another one at the same restaurant. We had this little ham hock salad with pear and some walnuts and mustard fruits. And a guy came up and went, mate, if I was on death row, that would be my dying dish.
Oh my God. That's what you live for.
When you bring someone to tears,
That's what it's about.
that's crazy.
I think food can do that, though. I think
Yeah.
food can bring,
Absolutely.
because it's memories and, yeah.
Exactly. Triggers memories.
How about you, Jeff? Have you got any examples of that? Have you brought people to tears with your product?
That's every day. No, but my experience was, so in Japan they have the bullet train, which is called the Shinkansen, right?
Yeah.
And I was one time taking the Shinkansen from Osaka to Tokyo, and it was a very late train, like the midnight train. And on my entire train car, you know, people were getting on and off, and eventually I was the only remaining passenger on the train, right? So I looked around and I knew that I was the only one. And on the Shinkansen, they have these ladies that push these snack carts down, and they sell snacks and drinks and everything, right? And the lady was pushing the cart down, and she was still saying like, "Ocha, coffee," you know, what they want. And I'm literally the only one on the train, right? But when I was sitting, you know, I was like this, and I was like half in and out of sleep, but my eyes were closed, but I was like sort of like just trying to stay awake, right? And I got to reenact this. So she's pushing the cart, and she gets to the end of the train. She sees that I'm asleep because she just saw me, right? And I'm like sleeping. She pushes the cart, gets to the train, the cart goes out, she turns around, deep bow to nobody, and I'm sleeping. Like, and I was just like, yo, the tenacity of service that like, I don't care if no one sees this, I'm bowing. I was like, fucking bravo, man.
Absolutely.
That's Japan.
They always got to do it better than
That's
everybody.
They do everything.
Everything better. Oh my
That's
God.
just, she's not doing it for us. She's doing because that's the way you got to do it, you know?
Like, who do you serve and why? And for us, really, service, I think the hardest part is with the consular cases. And that's where it's hardest to make people seen, heard, and understood, because, of course, on a human level, I understand them, but I need to follow the rules, which is a system. And everyone gets upset when you need to deal with authorities because you just don't, as a human being, you don't need to understand how issuing visas work. But then you just are there that you need to travel in 2 days' time to Europe.
Yeah.
You have your flights booked and whatever, and you have all your business meetings set, and then a bloody embassy is not giving you the visa, and you don't get an appointment, and you try to book through the system, and the next appointment is only in 2 months. And then, like, how do you explain, like, yes, because we are a small team, and we cannot do overtime, and we need to adhere to the rules, and we need to submit it to a system, and especially Schengen visas. It's not that I decide personally, oh, you don't look like an illegal migrant. It's like, sure, I assure you that will be good. You are nice, of course, sure. So it's like, it's very hard in these cases how you really render a good service. And for us, this is, I think, the hardest, because all the other parts are part of the job and you do it. But this is really, and I think for us, COVID was a very, very hard and tough thing, because in COVID, the Hungarian government renders full service to our citizens. So different governments act differently. So concerning your citizens, it's like, okay, they are there, they moved abroad, it's their shit, and they deal with it. And it's like, and basically it's like, you figure it out. But we have a full service on policy. So when COVID hit, and a lot of people, and back then I was ambassador to Indonesia, a lot of people still in 20 March, they were traveling to Bali for Easter vacation.
Oh my God.
Wow.
And they arrived to Bali, and then of course all the airlines shut down service, borders were closed, and we have a lot of citizens who were just on their last money. They bought the tickets for the whole family, and then Emirates shut down services, and they were like, we are giving you a voucher. And the only airline which was functioning was Qatar, and we got the task as an embassy that we need to take care of each and every citizen, and we need to help them to get home.
Wow.
But
So-
every continent had to do that, right?
No, it was only us. So actually we ended up with a lot of other nationalities who were together in the hotels with the Hungarians. Like, can you help us? Because your embassy is communicating, because here it's again, it's like the level of service which you provide. And we are just very much caring about our
Can
own
I ask you a question?
Yeah.
Is it safe to say that when people come into your world and deal with you, they kind of don't want to be there, right?
Yeah.
Like there's like
Distance,
an issue, so it's different than like a restaurant where I'm gonna go have a good time. This is like,
No.
maybe it's like dentistry.
I was laughing in my head. I was like, if there's anywhere they don't want to be more than they don't want to be in the
Would you
consulate.
rather get a visa or a root canal?
Just do it
Oh my God,
quick.
so
It's
tough.
like,
I know, so
I'd rather get a visa online. I can't meet a dentist online.
But yeah, so you're already on the back foot where you have to
Yeah.
like really please them because they're just aggravated probably in some way, shape, or form.
And that's where usually the trump card of being an ambassador comes in, because the really hard cases land on my desk, because that's the only thing with what we can do with the people to feel that they are heard, that okay, the ambassador personally will deal with your issue. And that's the only thing
But they're
where...
also the most aggravated at that point.
Oh yes, of
probably.
course,
Yeah.
of course. So I got all these cases. So there was a guy, and he was like, "I'm calling the TV, and I don't know." And anyway, I called the embassy in Delhi, and I'm like, "Yeah, but you're not in India. You're in Indonesia." First of all, because you
like, that's
before you
nice.
get very aggravated, just check where you are, and we are here. We are here to help. You don't need to call anyone, and.
You carry yourself in the way you maneuver through the crisis. Like that shows a lot about what the country stands for, which is technically the brand essence of that country, you know. And
Where you have a customer or a client and you're providing a service to your client, and you can clearly see a dissonance between what the client is asking you to do and what their target audience needs or wants, right? Where do you draw the line and say, I'm just not going to do this, or I'm getting paid, so I'm just going to do what you tell me to do? Like, how do you draw your personal boundary on that?
It's really difficult because, again, you have the peer pressure of your colleagues and your managers. And look, I'll be honest, like I don't work for an agency right now for a good reason, because there is a lot of that. But working with the right people, and if you're working with the right clients, you can be authentic and you can trust it, and they hire you for that opinion. So it's important to recognize organizations or agencies, in your guys' cases, that recognize that and say, hey, listen, before we get into this relationship, you've got to give me some agency to feedback where I think you're going wrong. I guess lawyers, like any service industry, has this same thing, right? The same challenge. It needs to be a two-way conversation. It can't be just do this and do what I say. So you're right, it's tough, but because sometimes you're in a situation where you don't have that choice. And if you don't service that client, you're literally getting fired or moved on to a different account, which is fine. It's okay. It's not the end of the world, but it's about being authentic. And I think, look, a lot of organizations are talking about, authenticity in work and what they do, more so now, thankfully, than they used to. So it's moving in that direction, but it's always been a challenge. It's always been a kind of...
So for me, with the answer to this question, who do you serve and why? For me, it's always about youth culture and the 17-year-old boy or girl version of me. That's who I serve with everything that I do. And so even if a client is proving difficult, I'm actually not trying to appease the client. I'm trying to appease the 17-year-old version of that. And I think my personal theory is that the 17-year-old person is actually the most powerful person in the universe. Because at 18, they start to think about responsibility a little bit, right? They start to think about, okay, got to get a job, got to get into a right college, got to do the right thing. At 16, you don't have your taste completely formed yet. You're still highly influenced by your older sister or brother, right? And you're still very malleable. At 17, you know everything in the world and you don't have any responsibility yet. That is the most powerful person in the universe, right? It's all downhill after 17. It's death and taxes after 17.
Oh, wow.
I know, there's the Game of Thrones theme, right? Death and taxes, death and taxes. Okay, so my question for you is, that 17-year-old, right, obviously changes, right? When a millennial was 17 versus when a Gen Z is 17, how does that change how you work?
That's the biggest challenge, is because my business now is 28 years old. So when I started in 97, there was that 17. Now that person has 3 kids and is divorced, right? But my thinking is that there is the literal 17-year-old, and then there's the 50-year-old who reminisces on their 17-year-old self. So that's who I'm talking to, the full range. It's not the age, it's a state of mind. And sometimes it's the age, but everyone wants to be youthful in the way they think, So that's how I rectify that.
That's good.
But that trumps all, honestly. Like whether it's a client, a collaboration, or anything, that is the thing that trumps all. One last cheers, guy. Thank you for doing this.
Thank you so much, guys.
Amazing food.
Happy birthday.
And happy birthday.
Happy birthday.
Thank you for coming.